I am muted. Is that better? Sorry about that. All right, you guys should be able to hear me better now. Trying to set some stuff up. Try to make sure everything is done. I have something a little bit different planned for everybody today. Hopefully the sound is working. Can you guys hear me okay now? Can I get a thumbs up if we can hear my audio? Let me check something. There you are. Okay, outstanding. We got good audio now. All right, thanks everybody. I had muted it to make sure that I didn't come off and was doing something else. So I definitely appreciate that. I see my microphone showing up. All right. I know, rookie mistakes, right? This logic, I'm telling you, it's just horrible. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just do my introductions and then tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Obviously, you guys have seen the thumbnail when you came in, and today's going to be an honorarium for Mr. John Howe. And I thought I would do something a little bit different, because I want to remember the man, the myth, the legend, right? But I got the opportunity to do something about a year and a half ago, and I wanted to share this back with you and kind of frame the discussions that him and I had over the years, and kind of tie that over the year, I guess I should say, and tie that back to that interview that we had, just a little bit about who he was. So first off, let me go ahead and say hi to everybody. Kane Friday, freaking awesome. Me, Brown Sugar, Coins Making Sense, Paula Bloom, thanks for being here. Devil in Disguise, Steve LaPointe, AZ Coins. We have Coin Junkie. If I say your name again, bear with me. Ringmaster Ray, Stacking with Kraken, J Smokes, AZ Coins. Man, just a bunch of people. Inkman 78, good to see you, bud. Thanks for being in here. Jackalope Herdmaster, Links 59, Old Bell, Jeff Davis, Invisible River Ranch. Good to see you. Thank you for being in here. What's up, David Carlisle? Didn't know if I was going to see you here today. Sorry, Dave's not here, man. All right, I think that is good. Again, everything that happens today is honorarium of Mr. John Howe. For those of you who are on the other side, Papa York, Dust Logic, good to see you. Thanks for being in here. I see that there's some people that have gone over back and forth on the portrait and the landscape side. And today, what's up, Soup? Good to see you. Thanks for being in here. Today, I'm going to shift this just a hair that way. Hopefully it doesn't change anything. Oh, no, don't crumble on me. No. Stop it. There we go. All right. I have a mic. I have a stand that has one leg. It's horrible. It doesn't want to stand up on its own. All right. So I wanted to do something a little different today. And I want to talk coins. I want to kind of talk about the collectible aspect of things. But I would be amiss if I didn't just kind of throw most of what I had planned away today and just take a minute to honor our friend and our comrade in arms, for those of you who are military, John Howe. So I got the call yesterday in the morning by C Happy Chappy, and C Happy Chappy said, I'm not sure that you're aware, but John Howe has passed away. And I had talked to him on Tuesday, and he didn't sound very good. He said he was not feeling well. He was kind of hurting. And even anybody who talked to John for quite some time knew that for quite a bit of time, he had not been feeling well. And so I say this with the utmost respect. I'm glad he's no longer hurting. We have to celebrate life. And John was good at that. He had fun. And the thing that I want to do today is kind of a little bit different. And I told you, or I text in the chat, I said something earlier that when I'm done today, the thumbnail that I have there is going to change. And it's going to change to this. One for Wounded Warriors. All right. I got to interview John. And I got to know a little bit about him. So today, I'm going to share that with you. So I asked John, excuse me, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the hobby? What was it about coins? What got you here? And this is what he had to say.
Okay, it kind of started when I was like in my teenage years, and I've always been a baseball fan. So I grew up with Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. So we used to get those baseball cards and those gun packs. But the coin portion came when I believe it was one of my uncles or my aunts, I can't remember, but it was a family member that worked for the government. And through that process, I got these. Whether it was he handed it to me, I don't remember, but they gave it to me. A 1964 SMS set, and also a 1960 and 61, 2, 3, and 4, 3 of the proof sets of the Franklins, which I have to this day. And I could tell you right now, they are just beautiful. I had to take them out of their original folders because they needed more protection. And my uncle had been involved with me a little bit, showed me how to protect them, and that's where they have been all these years. And actually, he gave me 2 sets. One set didn't look that good. I don't know what happened to that. I actually sent that into BCGS, and they denied it because I couldn't prove it. So it's kind of weird how it works when you have these type of things. If you have them in the papers, I suggest you keep them in there, especially if they're rare. Anyway, I got fascinated with this, but then I went into, of course, Vietnam, and I went into the Air Force, and those coins sat in my storage place at my house, at my father's house, and I spent 4 years in the Air Force and came out of there and went to work, and it's kind of lost track of, if you look at 35 years, just almost nothing going on. Then about 6 or 7 years ago, I started to get back into the coins because something triggered me, and I pulled out those books, and I actually had a bunch of wheat pennies. I have about 15,000 wheat pennies,
Wow.
and and a lot of them are errors. And I'll get into that in a few minutes because that's another story about the learning how to isolate and look at error coins, and that's something if you're really interested, you should, one might want to take on because it's not even the money; it's the fun of it. I mean, the excitement of finding that that second earlobe or whatever. It's great stuff, man. And then of course, the more mid-state it is, the more excitement there is involved in that. So, in any case, I got injured. I retired from Verizon. I worked for Verizon for 31 years, and then I went to work for Lucent Technologies. I was a manager in charge of building the new central office after 9/11 towers went down, and so I really that was quite involved. I had 65 guys working for me. And it was a 24-hour 7, and it was you couldn't win that type of a job. I just couldn't win.
As he started to talk about this particular section of the interview, we had to do a couple takes because as he started talking about 9/11 and the events, he got pretty choked up. He loved our nation. Anybody who knew John knew that John loved our nation, and he knew that he loved the brothers and sisters who served in arms. And he would do a lot. That's why, again, the name of this is going to change. The caption of this is going to change. What's going on, Paul Hampton? Thanks for coming in. And, but he had a hard time talking about the events of 9/11. And he was there. He spent a lot of time working and doing recovery efforts and trying to get things taken care of. And he paid a heavy toll for it. He suffered a lot of injury. He suffered some mental anguish from this. And anybody who experienced the events of 9/11 kind of have memories of where they were at. And it's one of those events, it's kind of like the Kennedy assassination of the newer age. And it's weird to think that nobody under the age of like 24 um, remembers the world without 9/11. And in having the conversation with John, one of the things that was really important that to me that really stood out was that it's not that he just never forgot. He never forgot. And I know that's semantics and words, and it's kind of a way of saying this, but he really did understand that what he was doing was making an impact. And it was one of those things. And again, if you haven't got to go there, and again, scrapping, hoarding, tinkering, fun, exactly. If you've never had the opportunity to go to Ground Zero, there are people in our community who served in that area. There are people who live really, really close. Steve LaPointe, he was there. He was covered in soot. I remember sitting there. John and I talked about this. I was sitting in the dentist chair. I had worked for Pepsi Cola at the time. And I was sitting in the dentist chair. And they were joking and laughing. And I kind of put my hand on the dentist. And I pushed him back a little bit. And I was like, what the hell's happening? He's like, excuse me? And I was looking at the screen in disbelief as a second plane hit that tower. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what are you watching? And I think that everybody in chat could probably attest to where they were at the events of that day. And so as we started talking about this, as John, I get choked up talking about this too. I had family members who were very close to that area. One who was supposed to be at the towers and due to some issues wasn't able to get there. Steve LaPointe lives really close. I know that Brown Sugar was there. I know we had members in our service that were stationed at bases not very far from there. Paula was in the Air Force, if I'm not mistaken, during that time frame when a lot of planes were grounded. We had people that were in airports stuck in there. David Carlisle says he remembers where he was at. If you remember where you're at, put it into chat. This discussion today is a remembrance. And it's to talk about things that John and I discussed over the years. And I say over the years because it's basically I've known him for about 2 years now. But John was really adamant about his service and his time there. And so I asked him to kind of talk about, what is it that is the thing that really kind of got you when you talk about the two towers? What was that kind of thing? What about your history? What about some of the situations, the details of your life? 23 years ago, I don't know why I said 25. I should know that. It was really easy +1 to this year. But again, looking at the situation, it was amazing to have discussions about that. And, how many people joined the military to kind of join the Comrade at Arms, the first responders. And you guys know that I give huge props to our first responders. So if you're a first responder, sometimes you guys have a thankless job. And I want to take a minute and say, thank you. There were people who were going up the stairs as it came down. And he was there. That was his job. So I'm going to go ahead and play this some more. I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about this situation. I'm going to back up the audio just a little bit and let him play. Continue to put into chat where you were at, have the discussion. And let's remember some of these things as we listen to John talk about his experience?
It was you couldn't win that type of a job. I just couldn't win. If I was trying to get some sleep, I'd be yelled at. If I didn't get enough sleep, I got yelled at. So you can't win, when that pressure's on and it goes like that. Anyway, I worked for there about 3 years. I had enough of it and moved on. And I came home. My wife was home, and I lived in New Jersey. And I said, we're going to move to Athens, Pennsylvania. Well, what's in Athens? I said, I don't know. I'm just going there. Something's calling me there. And that's what we did. And now we're still in Athens to this day. That was 2003, right? I worked for Schwann's Home Service Delivery, and I got hurt. And not on the job, but I got hurt. I was pulling a weed whacker, and I pulled my rotor cuff off my shoulder.
Oh.
Yeah. So what happened was, found out that the shoulder was no good and they couldn't fix it. They had to replace it. So they replaced it, and then that didn't work. So they did a total replacement, 5 surgeries, and I have very little use and 100% pain in the shoulder forever. And it's been that way forever. So but I live with that. So the reason I'm saying that is because of what happened is I got into a stationary position here in where you're seeing me right now. And I said, you know what? Let me go buy some 50-cent pieces and start looking at the Kennedys. So I went to the bank, and they were really willing to give me those rolls and sell me the cases of them. And I started looking at them, and I didn't know really what I was looking for. It was silver for the most part. I didn't look for any varieties or anything, which I say, boy, I probably sent a bunch of them back. Anyway, it got me into the flow of things, and what I think my wife kind of liked it that I was busy, because I was a very active type of person. So now what am I going to do? And I have kind of found this, and this thing has taken a life of its own. It's growing for me, and I just absolutely love what's going on here. So for about 6 years ago and to now, I have learned so much about the coin business and on how it functions. I'm able to pick up on fair prices quicker than I ever did. I mean, I had to learn the hard way with that a lot of times. I bought stuff that was probably well overpriced, but It's okay. And the more I did in this, the more I liked it.
So we talked about his coin collecting and what it was that he liked to do. We talked about a number of things, and after he hurt his shoulder and he had the surgeries and stuff, he wasn't able to function basically the same way. And because of this, he did Social Security. He'll talk a little bit about finances and the stuff that he went through and the stuff that he tried to do. And during the time frame, he was trying to identify, how he was going to do things and how he was going to kind of make it through as the economy started to make its downturn and prices of things started going up. And at that time, silver was down a little bit. I think we were around 22, 23 on silver. And we kind of asked him, it's like, so what are you doing during this time frame to supplement your income, and how do you fill your gaps? And this is what he had to say regarding that situation.
I've sold because of the gap filling. I've had to constantly throw together gaps here and there, because eBay selling is great, but if it doesn't go for like 2 weeks, if you're not, it's just tough at times. And that was good that Silver Keys stepped up and did that, and it was awesome. And that's what that's what I love about the coin community.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've stepped up and helped many people in this business when I can see that they needed it, or found out that they need it. And it just doesn't bother me. If I have it, they're going to get it. Today I haven't bought anything, almost nothing this week. Now, I bought a little bit here and there, only because I have to continue to feed my store in eBay. I really don't want to spend any money right now, but if I don't, then I don't get enough action. I have to constantly fuel that. Anyway, the store's new. I've been at eBay for a long time, and I've been pretty successful on and off. Like I said, there's stretches and time periods where, boy. And now I'm on Social Security, so I get that. My wife works 2 jobs, and we manage most of the time. But there are times when that little bit of extra boost really, really can help.
So you guys know that one of the reasons when I first started my channel, I enjoy learning about people. I like the history of things. And when I mean the history of things, I mean the history of things. I mean the history of people and the coins and iconic stories and things of, numismania, numismatics, right? But I enjoy, and I'm a studier of history and research. And the reason that I wanted to do what I'm doing today, to play back some of the stuff that we had in this conversation with John, was that a lot of the information that we glean from people get lost if we don't tell the story. If we don't take time to talk, if we don't take time to share and collaborate and really grow with each other. One thing I've got away from in this channel is the conduction of interviews. And there are people in our community, there are older people in our community who have a wealth and a breadth of knowledge. And you're going to see a little bit of a resurgence, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. I don't know if I'll have people on. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do this. But I was thinking about this when I heard the news. And the one thing that I think that is really important, hey, good morning, Mark. How you doing? Good morning, Larry. Was, why am I doing this channel? Like, I do this for you guys. I do this because I want to share information. But if I don't do some of the stuff that I want to do for me, and Paula and I have talked about this. I've talked to this conversation with Miss Coin Crew, and actually had the conversation with John. Hey, Kraken, thanks for the $5 super chat. If I wouldn't have had these conversations, if I wouldn't have conducted this interview, I would never have been able to recall all the information that I gleaned from him during this time frame. I wouldn't have remembered that he served at the base of the Twin Towers after they fell. I wouldn't have remembered that he had this infatuation with many friends of mine, which are pennies. He loved looking for the varieties. He loved looking for errors. And as he stated earlier on in the first part of the conversation, he has over 15,000 wheat cents. And he knows many of them are varieties, many of them are errors. And so he enjoyed looking. And again, there's a lot of us that enjoy looking for varieties and errors. And in fact, is me still in chat? Because YouTube me is always like, damn you, Frosty, you ruined me. And it's not that I ruined him. I enjoy sharing the interests and getting stuff done. But I really enjoy the stories. I enjoy being able to talk with people like this and getting to know who they are. So I'm going to be doing something, again, probably once a month, and I'm going to be reaching out to members of the community, and I want to hear your stories. If you have an exciting event, you have something that is really cool that's happened in your life. If you've served the military, and again, thank you for this very much, Kraken, I appreciate you. If you have an event, or you have a love for a specific coin, or you have in-depth knowledge of one of the Horde stories or something of that, reach out to me and let me know, because I want to know the stories. I want to tell the stories. I'm a storyteller, and I'm somebody who likes to engage in the conversation and the mystery and the mystique and get to know and dig into it, find out information that it's fun and exciting and exhilarating. And a lot of people don't know things. I know Steve Looking for Silver says that quite frequently when he introduced me to the Redfield Horde. And in talking with Redfield, or in talking with him about that, looking at doing the research and creating the video, there were things that he was like, I didn't know the dude loved peaches. Like, there's just these little things, these little nuggets that we find when we take time to talk. Ladies and gentlemen, we see each other in the streams, or we hear each other, or we text each other in the streams. But how well do we genuinely know each other? I have the opportunity tomorrow to meet SkyQuest. Now, I don't know if SkyQuest is going to be in here, but he's going to be coming to San Antonio, and he's going to be heading here to watch. Hopefully, we don't get overcast. It's going to be horrible. The eclipse that's going to be happening on Monday. And I'm going to have an opportunity to talk with him. So tomorrow, this stream may not happen. It may be a short stream in which we talk. Hey, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. And we're going to be able just to chit chat, be able to talk. He's going to be able to meet Bifrost. Bifrost is going to be with me, and we're going to be going to Kerrville. I'm going to be taking him to his location, and we're going to just kind of bum around town and hang out and visit for just a little while. And it's these interactions, it's these stories that matter. It's this information that matters to me, because without this, again, I wouldn't have been able to pull this information together and remember John Howe. And again, John, that Frostbyte guy is a bad influence. I know. But you're going to be seeing more of this from my channel, because I want to get back to why I started the channel. I want to get back to telling stories. I enjoy the history of things, and I enjoy remembering the stories of people like John. I asked John, hey, dude, if you had an item, just one, like to collect, if there was something that you really, really liked, if there was something that you would say, this is mine, what would that be? And I was surprised by his answer, actually. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting a little bit more classics, but this is what John had to say when I asked him that question.
I would say it's really hard because it's a couple. Really, I zero in on and I won't let go of, and that is quarters, and mostly modern day quarters, but not necessarily all. I go into the 50s and 60s. 50s I consider modern, but
now I want you to hear. Hopefully, you guys heard that really clearly. Like, it was just quarters. It wasn't the old. Now, he liked the silver quarters. He liked that stuff, but it was just quarters, right? And it really. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to let the rest of this conversation play out. But I wanted to take a moment and think about what that statement meant about John. It was this statement in listening to it last night, because I didn't have this idea until, hey, beer drinking Barla, thank you. I didn't have this idea until about midnight last night. And as I was listening to the interview, and I just closed my eyes and was just listening to him, I started laughing uncontrollably. I was like, quarters. Why the hell just quarters? But when I go back through and I listen to I think about some of the stuff that we had in conversations, John was about freedom. John was about independence. And our first president was George Washington. And there is a really strong connection to liberty. And John's desire to collect and have coinage. But it made me laugh, because it's John's simplicity that made him who he was. There was no BS. There was no whatever with John. John was pretty much just a straight shooter kind of guy. And when I heard that, it just made me laugh. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this back out. But again, when you talk about the simple genuineness of this man, I want you to think about that. Hey, Jenny. Hey, good to see you.
Go all the way back into looking. I don't. Okay, beyond 1932, and beyond, the other direction, I don't really do too much with. I don't know enough about it, and just I have enough on my plate trying to figure out all the stuff in front of that.
Yeah.
And so I try to stay within my boundaries with this stuff. Although once in a while I cross them, but I don't collect Morgans. I don't collect, and it's important to understand that I got early burned in Morgans, where I bought some Morgans and they were all counterfeits. And I realized I couldn't even tell, and I'd have to learn how to disseminate that or buy it from a reputable place.
Right.
Period. Morgan's the most counterfeited silver dollar we have. Anyway, so I would say Franklin's is one of my favorites. I love Franklin proofs. I can't get enough of those. I love the Bugs Bunnies. I think they're so cool. And the Kennedys, and mostly mostly the silver Kennedys. You know, the SMS sets, the 40%ers and 90s, and then of course 92 to and up is silver Kennedys.
He loved his varieties.
I kind of zero in on two things. I kind of zero in on those, but I also zero in on whether they're silver or not. It's important to me right now that they are silver. You know, because silver is going to go up like no tomorrow. And not that I'm looking to sell them or make money on them, but I just need to be able to have that as a reserve,
So one thing that he talked a lot about, and this was a common staple, if we have people who are primary stackers in the chat, you guys have heard this from him as well. And he was big on stacking. He was big on the preservation of wealth. And he's going to talk about that here in just a second as we finish up this little portion of this. But I wanted to take a minute and talk about that, because the one thing about John was that John was always about being prepared. He was always about trying to pay attention. Now, he loved a good conspiracy. We had a lot of fun talking about conspiracy and the things that were through and what happened. But he was always about being on guard, like stacking and protecting and making sure that you had your preservation of wealth and making sure those things were done. Well, yeah, so you can find good deals on eBay, but again, eBay was utilized for him as a way to supplement his income, right? So Devil in disguise, right? I love Franklin's also, and it's important to realize, it's important to think about these things where if you listen to the coins and you listen to what's happened. So him and I talked a lot about history. And we talked about why he likes certain things. Thanks for the $5 super chat again there, Kraken. I appreciate you. I missed what you said, though. I was looking away. Yeah, he just had an extraordinary way of looking at things. He was very simple. He was down to earth, but he wasn't a simpleton. He was very complex. He had a very strong and he had a very understanding mind about the way things work. But he was about protection. He was about safeguarding the wealth, and he knew that our nation was struggling with some things. And he wanted to make sure people knew that there were things in place. He wanted to be very practical about the application of things. He didn't waste a bunch of money. Now, he spent money, and we did the games. This is why the title of this is changing once this is done to One for Wounded Warriors. And it was one of those things where the gift, the opportunity, hey, vote for Pedro. There's another one who absolutely loves Wounded Warriors and has done a ton for Wounded Warriors, made it what it is. So appreciate you, vote for Pedro. But John had an affinity, a passion for making sure people were taken care of. He absolutely loved people, and he wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And so stacking, and we'll talk a little bit about how much he has. He'll talk about that here in just a second in relation to what he put together and what he did and what he was trying to do to help preserve wealth for his wife. So I just wanted to take a second and kind of highlight that, because a lot of people who really didn't know him didn't understand that he was stacking. Now, we're not talking just constitutional. He didn't mention anything about his constitutional. Me, $25 super chat. Kraken isn't taking me down. He just reloaded his life cycle. Thanks, bud. I appreciate the support a ton. That's awesome. Thanks so much. I needed the laugh. Choke it up a little bit here.
Protect a wealth protector, having your wealth protected. Having said that, I'm still selling a lot of it because I have to. So but if I didn't focus on getting the silver like this, Frostbite, I would never have had enough to sell. Over the last 6 years, I've sold over 800 rounds of silver. So
now, when he said that, I heard that wrong the first time. It wasn't 800 grams; it was 800 rounds. So he's talking about 800 ounces of silver. That's that's more than my entire stack plus, right? But this is what he did to help supplement his income, and it's really important. The more I talk to John, the more I listen to stories. He really was about making sure that, he had things taken care of, because if he had a bad day or he had a bad week or he had a bad month, he always made sure to look at how he could protect himself and preserve his wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, with a situation our economy is in, it's really important that you take care of these things and that you look at where you're at financially, and know how to preserve that wealth. It's extremely important. Me, bam, his power's back up to full health. Thank you again for the super chat, me. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate all your support, your camaraderie as another Navy brother from another Navy mother. But yeah, again, with him, it's always the case, SkyQuest, but he was very, very emphatic about making sure that we protected ourselves. So I just wanted to clarify that when he said 800 rounds, it wasn't grams, it was rounds, because it definitely makes a definite impact.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of silver.
Yeah. I had about 1,500, not counting my conventional junk silver.
So again, he doesn't consider his junk silver part of his silver squeeze, so to speak. But again, hey, Invisible River, thank you for being a Navy. And again, for the brothers and sisters here who have served, for those of people who take care of veterans, for those that, and Paula has said this before, for those who wanted to serve but couldn't because of medical reasons, hats off to you today. John was an avid lover of the nation. He absolutely loved the United States, and he loved people who served, whether it was from our Canadian brothers and sisters up north, or whether it be in the Royal Corps or Royal Air Force or whatever it was. He loved the camaraderie between people who had been supportive of each other. That's why he was so adamant about wounded warriors. Hey, long live Coins. Have a great day, buddy. Be well. Thanks for coming in. And again, share this out so that people can see kind of the history behind who the man was, which is the whole premise of today. So I asked John, what makes you tick? I want to say that this is probably part of the funnest part of this for me, because this is what really drives me. I want to know what it is about you. What drives you? What is it that you enjoy? We already talked about his collecting, and we already talked about some of that stuff. But this was something that I thought was really important, and I wanted to share this with you as well.
Okay. One thing that I will want to say is when I do travel a lot of these different locations, like you say, and I do that, but I also pay attention to the chat. I really try to stay with chat as much as I can, because you can learn an awful lot about people listening to what they're saying.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it tells me sometimes where people are hurt. People are afraid to ask for help a lot of times. And it's important to me, if I have the ability to help somebody, to help them. You know, it's always going to be that way with me. It's never been different. Even I made a lot of money in my days, and I belong to a local church here, and the church was hurting for funds. They were doing okay, but I put a lot of stuff in that church and never said it to anybody. I just did it, and my son put it in, and I paid for everything. I didn't care, but I was making the money. That's what. If you can't do those things, if you have the funds and you can't do it and help your fellow man, then what's the point?
John was all about helping people and taking care of us. Hashtag kindness. That's absolutely right. John was all about it. John was about making sure that people in the community were taken care of. And he did a lot of discussion and a lot of things behind the scenes. Hey, Siren, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. John loved doing what he could behind the scenes. He enjoyed making sure that people got things taken care of. And he was in a lot of chats. He would come in and he would lurk and he would listen and he would kind of see what was happening and he would reach out to people. And there were times where John went silent, like I just didn't hear from him. And I'd call him and say, hey, how you doing? And probably the last month and a half, 2 months, I would talk to John periodically, probably not as much as I should. I wish, looking back, I don't have any regrets because I knew the man, I talked to the man, I love the man. I reached out to him. We had a good relationship. It's not like I wish I would have talked to him more. And I wanted to talk to him more. I would love to have gone back and had more time. But I don't regret the fact that we didn't have more conversations because we both knew where we stood. We both knew who we were. We both knew what was going on. And even as he was hurting, and I mean physically hurting. So, folks, if you don't know, John was really sick towards the end. And he struggled. He had a hard time. And in talking with members of the community, I'm going to get choked up here. A sorcerer stand. In talking with members of the community during this time frame, it was a rough time for a number of people. But I did a video specifically for him. And it was about 988. You're not alone. Because John was at a point during the last few months of his life, he didn't want to be here. He struggled. And he hurt. But he never stopped doing for others. He never quit. I called him one time and I said, hey, how you doing? He goes, Frosty, I'm not good, man. I'm not good. And I'm like, what do you need? He says, this, this, I need to talk. And I let him talk. And we cried together and we chatted. And he's like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to be here. And I told him that he made an impact. I told him of all the people that would not just miss him, but the people that needed his laughter, the people that needed his joy, the people that needed that one for Wounded Warrior, the graciousness, the kindness. People needed to see Stackin. Do me a favor, go ahead and throw that link in chat. You can send me an email, and I apologize, I'm snorting all over myself. But he never stopped, even when he was in his lowest time. He never stopped doing for other people. He was always concerned about everybody else. He was always concerned about what was happening for other people. And during this conversation, he went back to something, and it was kind of out of the blue. It wasn't something that was expected. And I know he's not in the chat. He may come in periodically and say hi. But he had a profound respect for Silver Seeker. And it reminded me of this clip. And I'm going to play this clip here in just a second. But he was concerned about him making sure that nobody had to get taken. Nobody had to get bamboozled, so to speak. And he really wanted to protect people. And so, hey, Crafty, what's going on? Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And I apologize for being a baby. But John was hurt. He was physically hurt, but he was in mental anguish. But I was so impressed because he never stopped caring. He just never, ever stopped. And John got pissed off at me last year when his freezer quit. And I told him that Lowe's will be delivering one to him later that week. Oh, dude, that's awesome. The kindness, the generosity. I just got it. I'll post the link here in just a minute. It was so cool to just be able to know what he did for people. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. I got to take myself off camera, blow my nose for just a second. But when I asked him in the hobby, what is one of the hardest things for you? He said this, I understand this about him. I really do get it. And I got ahead of myself. The next clip is about Seeker, but yeah, they're not going to stop for a while, Chappie. What gets me about John was kindness, like genuinely kindness. And it's a miss these days. So listen to him when I talks to him what the biggest barrier to him mastering his love for his hobby.
Coin collecting has just been so much fun. I have so many different things here. I mean, it's so sometimes it's like hard to zero in on any given thing. But if I had to give on anything, it would be I love the silver quarters and I love the Franklins and the Kennedys. So I told you before, I'm a modern day coin guy. I like the modern day stuff. And the proof pennies, you can't, when you talk about proof pennies, for example, Frostbite, it's hard to understand why they don't get the cameo on some of these, or even cameo. It's weird. I mean, some of these pennies always should get it. I think out of every coin, that's the hardest one for me to pick. And I mean, I know I can look at it and grade it, but is it going to be cameo or deep cameo, or is it not going to be either? I just don't know how they do it. You know, I've sent coins in, and I look at they have CGS has
Yeah.
websites. I look and do comparisons, and these coins are there, and I don't get when it comes back. It doesn't come back cameo. It's like I don't, and you can't. So coin grading is a very difficult thing to do. It really is. But
All right. So here's, let me copy this. I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. So this is, where did my chat go? There we go. This is the video that Travis, or excuse me, that Kraken put together. So if you guys want to go check that out, go check that out. It's his video about John as well. But in talking with him, you know, he got really kind of bent out of whack. Hey, what's going on, Snoopy? Yeah, he loved his stuff. I'm glad you're here, Snoopy. Thank you so much for coming in. You're one that actually got to deal with John quite a bit at the end as well, and knew kind of the pain that he was under, being very quiet about it. A lot of people didn't understand how he was hurting, but he was an incredible man. And this is why I wanted to do this today. But earlier, I kind of got ahead of myself and where I was at in this. But in talking with John, John had an affinity for the stuff that people do to protect others, looking at counterfeits. As he had stated earlier in the interview, there was a time where he got duped with a bunch of Morgans, and he never kind of got over that. He always wanted to remember and pay attention to something. So I asked him, what about this? Like, if you could tell people what you need to watch out for and stuff, what would that be? What would that look like? So this is kind of what he had to say about that. And when I did this, the way I prefaced this was, if there was a video or something that you could really tell people to pay attention to, other than one of mine, right? And he was like, "Oh, I wouldn't recommend yours." And he was so quick, it just made me laugh. Now, mind you, I was brand new at the time, and he was just playing with me. But he had a good wit, and absolutely loved his laugh. Because towards the end, you just didn't hear much of it. But he he kind of popped me a good one there, and it made me laugh because again, John had just had a dry wit about him, and you had to get to know him to be able to do that. So I asked him if he could share a video from anybody in the community, what would it be? And here was his statement.
a lot of our folks go to coin shows all over the place. A lot of them do. I've watched this stuff all the time. Silver Seeker did a video on the sleight of hand. It's so fast, they slowed it down, and it was hard to see it. Where the guy, I mean, these are things we're dealing with. So, but you're right. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Silver Seeker, because that was a great video.
He loves Silver Seeker, and I know Silver Seeker's probably not going to come into here and see this. I'll send him a message privately and send that little clip to him. I don't know how well he knew John, but John absolutely adored Silver Seeker and what he does for the community teaching people about silver and gold, teaching people about, what happens and how to protect yourself. And I don't know if you guys, you look at the setup that I have and you look at the structure and the way my stuff is set up. I pull a lot of my design elements. Hey, take care, SkyQuest. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bud. I'm looking forward to spending the day with you. So take care of yourself. Have a safe trip, and message me when you get into town. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you. But I try to model a lot of what I do around what Seeker does. And it's not because, he's a great big channel. It's not because I've met him and I know who he is. It's because he's got a really good presence, and he genuinely cares about the community. He wants people to understand, and people like that tend to navigate to these things, right? And make sure that people really understand and that find that connection. And John talked almost every time we talked. He was like, "Did you see the new Seeker video? Did you see that? And did you see what he did? And oh my God, I can't believe that the price was that." And they wanted like that much more money over this one, and I can't believe that they would do that, because he absolutely loved Seeker. So I want to make sure that Silver Seeker's aware of that. I'm going to share, like I said, I'm going to share that clip with him, because I think that he needs to know that he has an amazing impact on some people's lives. All right. Yeah, he did have a nice chair. He told me one time, he goes, the only thing in this hobby that I really have to worry about is my pocketbook and my butt. So he wanted to make sure he had a nice, comfortable chair. Hey, Snoopy, I don't know if I know you're in the vertical mode, but if you want to go over to the landscape mode, you can click the link above. You may be bouncing back and forth, but if you want to go to the landscape, a majority of the people are over there. You can click on that link above pinned, and that will take you to the other side of the stream without having to go through. Yeah, Ron, when I heard about this yesterday, See Happy Chappy messaged me and told me. I've had a couple other people tell me as well, but See Happy Chappy was the first one to tell me. It took me back. But I'll say something. And again, what I'm about to say might sound kind of indignant, but it's not meant to be. I'm glad he's not in pain anymore. It was a miserable existence for him. He hurt. And I'm glad he's free of it. I'm glad he has that release. And I'll remember him. He'll be one of those things that's always tied to me with 9/11. Listening to his stories, listening to what's going on. I'll never forget about John. And I wanted to share a story. Many of you in chat know a lot more about the man than I do. And we have other people in the community who are hurting, who are sad, who are depressed. I have a couple of friends in the chat right now who, thank you, Tiger, for the gift memberships. I appreciate you, bud. We have people who, they're hurting, right? They're physically or mentally just exhausted and beat up. Take the minute to take time for somebody else. Snoopy always says, #kindness. Chappy, #kindness. John was kindness.
Yeah, I want to thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate this.
I had a lot of fun. Again, ladies and gentlemen, John Howe, thank you for being here. We'll definitely see you in this stream. And again, Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We had fun. We had great talks. One for Wounded Warrior Project. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. Be well. Be blessed.